I've been asked recently why I wrote a second book. 4 months ago, as the pandemic began, I wrote Faith in a Time of Pandemic because I believed at the time we needed faith. We needed a pathway to get through the pandemic. We needed spiritual practices to give us a sense that we had agency and we could be God's partners in changing the world. Well, 4 months has passed and the pandemic rages on. And we're struggling with depression. We're struggling with hopelessness. We're struggling with figuring out how we can be change agents. And so I wrote Hope Beyond Pandemic. We all need hope. We all need hope. Many of us feel a bit like Dante at the beginning of the Divine Comedy when he says, I found myself in a dark wood with no straight way forward. That's our situation. But sometimes in the darkness, the eye begins to see, and we can find a path forward. I believe hope is important because the horizons of hope, the vision of hope that guides us, helps us take one step at a time and helps us discover our agency in the midst of life's challenges. Now, in the middle of this pandemic, we've discovered we live in an apocalyptic time, and that apocalypse doesn't just mean catastrophe. It also means revealing. And a lot has been revealed. Economic injustice, racism, the gaps in our healthcare system, environmental destruction, the fallacy of nation first, the danger of individualism and rights without responsibility, and the revelation that our nation is exceptional in denial, but not in leadership. We're a bit like Ivan Ilyich, who is suffering from a terminal illness and pleads, I want to live, and then a little voice says, but as before. That's the question. Do we want to live as before? Now, whenever there's a crisis, there's at least 3 responses, according to philosopher Alfred North Whitehead. The first is denial. Denial is magical thinking, the belief that it will just go away, the belief that the pandemic will cease if we just get the economy going, go back to school, and return to business as usual. But denial leads to death, and prophetic change always is grounded in facts, in assessing right where we are in light of God's future. The second response is passivity, the belief that all the power belongs to the pandemic and we have none, that we are victims without any sort of agency. But I prefer a third way, and that's the way of creative transformation. The belief that we are agents in creating a future beyond ourselves, that we can be partners with God in initiating novelty to match the novelty of our current situation. Creative transformation is grounded in the belief that the future is open, that we can make a difference, that we're connected and what we do shapes the world. But this hope is also grounded in the belief in a certain type of God, a God for whom the future is open too, a God who provides us with possibilities and the energy to achieve them, a God who needs us to be God's hands and feet in this time of crisis. Hope is grounded in a belief that the spiritual arc of history lures us forward, shaping our days, that the moral arc of history guides us in making responsible social change, and that we are part of this arc, and that God calls us to be a companion, a co-creator, a partner in healing the earth. That's why I believe there's hope beyond pandemic.